Hello, everyone. D. Alfred Ostrowski. In this recording, going to be going through day 0 of my 20-day Ethereum challenge. And in this recording, I'm going to primarily cover the installation. That's why we're calling it day 0, as I'm going to cover the installation of Node.js and a few extra software libraries, in particular Ethers.js and OpenZeppelin, that I'm going to be using in some of the subsequent examples. I'm going to try to backfill this with as much information as possible. I'm assuming that you already have some knowledge of Amazon, AWS, how to log in, how to get an account, how to set up a client. As I've done with Putty software, you don't know how to do that, I'll try to include as much appropriate documentation that along with the Amazon data, you'll be able to log in and get up and running. I'm using the C5 instance. Now, I've run through this in some of my earlier tutorials. You might want to take a look at that as well. But again, I'll try to backfill this to make it as comprehensive as possible to get you up and running and go from 0 to 100. Okay, I'm assuming very little prior knowledge. Of course, you should have some type of programming exposure, okay, before working with this. I'm also going to be leveraging, as I do in all my videos, the VI editor, as I'm only going to be using basically cut and paste commands. I'm not going to be doing any fancy editing, so it's not going to necessitate any fancy editor. I'm also going to include some of my philosophy and why I do this way and why I'm doing everything in the way that I do. Okay, that'll be on the associated GitHub. That'll be associated with this video. And as I'm following through this, I'm following through my notes and the README install, and I'm setting this up that for a small fraction of your day, okay, preferably around 15 minutes a day, you'll be able to go through the 20-day blockchain challenge. And we'll have implemented smart contracts in the Solidity programming system, have some exposure to React.js, and know how to implement decentralized applications on the Ethereum blockchain. So with that said, let's get started. I have the C5 instance up. I have a client running attached to that already using Putty. And I'm just going to cut paste the commands in here, and then we're going to be done with this. That's why I'm calling it day 0, which is very light. And if you already used some of my prior videos, you probably can just use the base installation that you have already. I want to also make a note that I'm running all this on home Ubuntu. As we start getting to using React.js, I'm going to create project directories, and within that, I'm going to put in the installation of hardhat to run your own personal blockchain, okay? But I'm not going to do all that here because you will be doing subsequent installs as related to the further tutorials that I'm going to run here. So that said, let me proceed. So I did a sudo app update, and that gives me downloads a list of local available packages, and it's a necessary command if you're going to be doing installations such as this. Here I did an install of CA certificates, curl GNU PG, and that is necessary to do the nodesource installations, as well as the next directory I'm going to create, makedir, and I'm including a little more detail in the README install. Again, a lot of this you don't need to know immediately to get up and running, and I don't want to go down the whole of Unix admin and make this as easy as possible to get you up and running and start working with the blockchain examples. Okay, so I'm doing nodesource based installation. If I just do a basic sudo apt-get install node, it's going to give me a lower version of Node. That's why I'm using nodesource, and here I'm setting it to 22 and consistently trying to update these videos with the latest software, so it'll work for you, okay? A year or two from now, it's going to be outdated on some level, and always when you're pulling distributions from the cloud. There could be some variation, and that is going to chew your time up and make it a lot more difficult to get the examples up and running. Here I'm setting up the nodesource installation as well by getting the apt sources list. I'm going to do another apt-get update, and then I'm going to do the actual install of Node.js, and we're going to be up and running and ready to go into the day one material. Okay, so this does the Node.js install. Now I'm using C5. You might be able to give out a little bit less, but I don't recommend it, as these installs or any of the software, in particular hardhat, is going to be somewhat resource intensive, and C5 large is not that expensive. Of course, you don't want to leave these instances up and running. If you do, you may be charged up to $1 a day or more, so be careful with it. In typical use, I may even delete my instances when I'm done. If I proved out a concept or a tutorial or something, I back it up to GitHub and just blow away the instance unless I'm serving something for a production purpose. So here I can go to Node and -v, and I have Node 22.41 installed. Okay, pretty up-to-date version of Node.js. I'm going to install web3. This gives me access to blockchain-based data sources and allows me to engage with that using JavaScript. I'm going to be installing Ethers and a few other packages related to hardhat. Not that I'm going to be using it immediately, but in all cases, but in some of the packages we will be using in the next few tutorials. Okay. But I can install them at this level because React is going to be installed at a little bit deeper directory levels. You'll see when we get to that point. And this takes a few seconds for the install. We're going to wait for it, and I don't have to pause out. It'll work pretty fast. And again, the C5 large is going to not require a lot of patience for the installs, whereas if we did a free tier instance, then it may not even install. Okay, at the very least, it's going to take a lot longer for your install. So there's another added benefit to that. Here I installed the OpenZeppelin contracts, and I'm good to go. So see you in the next video. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. And again, I'm going to try to backfill a little bit more of the information. You'll get some of my other introductory tutorials if you're not as familiar to using Amazon and instantiating the instance and so forth. So thanks for listening. See you on the next one. Thank you.